Sup freaks, it's me. Yeah boy. So I've never really done any kind of drawing challenge, it's never actually really been my thing. I've never done Inktober or Mermaid or any of that, but one drawing challenge has definitely had my interest for a while, and that would be the 10 Styles challenge. So that's what I'm doing today. I mean, technically in this video there's only 5 styles, but this will probably be a 2-part video. I already have a couple styles in mind for the next video, but let me know what styles you would like to see. For this video I mostly just picked styles that have had some kind of influence on me throughout my life, but I'd like to try some others if you guys recommend them as well. But without further ado, let's get into the video. Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I shall always miss you. So, I've always really liked Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a franchise. When I was little, I would watch the 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I loved it. I didn't really get a lot of the themes back then, but it certainly sparked my love for the franchise, and I mean, I even own TMNT themed pajamas. I haven't really rewatched the series, even though I've wanted to, but when I found Rise, it immediately reignited my love for the franchise in a way nothing else ever had. I was obsessed with this show back in 2021. Back in 2021, I wasn't alive back in 1999. Looking back on my art style back then, it's quite clear I was influenced by the show, so drawing this actually reminded me of my old art style quite a lot. My love for the show still exists to this day, and it was truly ahead of its time, even if some of the humor is pretty dated. As far as I'm aware, there is still a lot of back and forth in the TMNT fandom as to whether the show is good or not, but it's certainly more beloved now than it was back when it first came out. Jesus, y'all were harsh on this show. I mean, I get it isn't for everyone, but comparing it to Teen Titans Go is blasphemy. Utter blasphemy! I personally love the art style. The colours are so vibrant, the designs for the turtles are immaculate, and the animation actually blew me away at times. I love all the characters so much. April is definitely the best she's ever been here. I love the characterization for Raph and Leo, even if it is a bit different. And don't even get me started on Donnie.
Oh sure, let me just load my tap into every security camera in New York app. I'm sorry if that sounded like sarcasm, it wasn't, I am in.
He's just so insanely quotable, it's beyond me. Literally my favorite adaptation of any of the Turtles ever. He's so fun and spunky and also somehow incredibly three-dimensional. I love it! Anyway, I should probably stop yapping and actually talk about the drawing. So I realized that my color palette and style would look pretty out of place for a lot of the styles I was trying to draw in, so I decided to give my little goblin fella a different outfit to match each style I was drawing him in. I wanted each drawing to look like you'd see him in the background of any of these shows, so with this design I gave him my classic black shorts paired with a cool purple satin jacket and trainers to match. The pose unfortunately ended up looking quite stiff, which is the case for a couple of these designs, but it's specifically bad here. I also think I made the line art a bit too thick, which just ended up making the finished product look a bit clumpy and stiff. I still like it, but for those reasons it's probably one of my least favorite drawings out of the bunch. I still definitely enjoy drawing it though. And there we have the finished drawing. So, what can I even say about Adventure Time that hasn't already been said 1,000 times over? I love it, it's one of my comfort shows, I used to watch it back when I was growing up, all that. I've always really loved the style of Adventure Time more than any of the other cartoons from its time. There was a lot of craze around this sort of simple, flat art style for cartoons back then, and still is today, as it makes it much easier to animate and therefore get episodes done quicker, but Adventure Time still managed to look really unique compared to other shows from its time. There's just something about its style that feels so comfy and nice, and it suits the tone of the show perfectly. Also, I should probably mention, this is also the style of Fiona and Cake too, and I think I'll probably be strung and quartered if I don't mention that show at least once. I love it, it's fantastic, the animation is beautiful, and Scarab is hot. Anyway, my favourite characters would probably be Fern, Ice King, and Peppermint Butler. Fern's story is genuinely so tragic, so many tears were shed for the poor little grass boy. I didn't expect many genuinely heart-wrenching scenes to come from Adventure Time if I'm being honest, but the Weed Whacker scene actually made me get up and stare at a wall for a bit. Ice King has completely shamed my sense of humour from the ground up. I love Tom Kenny as a voice actor, and he brings so much to every line Ice King has. It's fantastic. I still constantly find myself quoting, "What? Broken leg again?" every 5 seconds. It's so good. I also happen to be an avid Peppermint Butler stan. I would love to perform a ritual with him sometime. If you are Peppermint Butler, hit me up. Anyway, I originally drew my goblin guy with no nose like the rest of the Adventure Time characters, but then I realized that goblins actually do exist in Adventure Time, and they do in fact have noses, so I did end up adding one in the end. This also ended up being the only drawing I did where I am actually wearing my normal outfit, because frankly, if you've seen Adventure Time, you'll know that basically anything goes. I just felt like if any of the styles I drew today would actually work with my normal outfit, it would be Adventure Time. I was kind of worried about the drawing looking flat because Adventure Time's style doesn't typically incorporate shading, but in the end I think it worked out pretty well. And here we have the second finished drawing. If I'm being completely honest, I don't actually like My Hero Academia. I think the story is all over the place, there's a lot of wasted potential, and the creator is a complete creep, and I do not like him. That being said, the art style is cool, and it's a part of the reason I took up drawing as a hobby in the first place, so here we are, I guess. I just wanted to make that clear right off the bat. Absolutely no hate to anyone who does like it, I know you'll get enough of that as it is. I just wanted to make it clear the main reason I chose this art style is mostly because I just wanted to design a hero costume for my little goblin boy, and not because I like the show. When I was just starting out on my artistic journey, I was going through an anime phase. Shocking, I know. And this was one of the animes little Mason gravitated towards, it seems. Despite not being the biggest fan of Despite not being the biggest fan of anime nowadays, I am fully aware that there are much better animes out there that I could have watched, but compared to the other stuff my poor, unsuspecting little fetus brain was watching back then, Rosary plus Vampire, don't watch it, MHA felt like a godsend. It was probably my first hyperfixation, which isn't embarrassing at all. When I was little, my favourite part about the show were the characters, and that's kind of still true to this day, but I do have a lot of issues with some of them, which I will get to. My favourites are probably Kirishima, Tsuyu, and whoever this mushroom girl is. Don't know anything about her, but she's just living her best life. I really like how genuinely sweet Kirishima is. He's just so polite and friendly, and just doing his best. I think his friendship with Bakugo slowly forming is really sweet, and yes, I think they should kiss. No, I don't think they're going to. And of course, I like Tsuyu because she is a frog. She's perfect. I like her as well because she's very sweet and polite, but I also appreciate how she can be a bit snarky and sarcastic sometimes. I like when she waterboarded Mineta, that was so girly pop of her. Of course, there isn't actually that much to her character because she is in fact a woman, and everyone knows that women aren't allowed to have motivations, flaws, or more than 2 personality traits, but I still love her nonetheless. And, of course, I should probably mention my least favourite characters. Toga's story is incredibly compelling and she has a lot of potential, but that potential is immediately downplayed by the fact that she's naked constantly. Momo is done incredibly dirty by the way the writers use her. I know she's supposed to be smart, elegant, and quick thinking, but it's all just bummed down by her constantly being used for nothing but fan service and constantly wearing this god-awful costume that is constantly ripping. Magni is another example of being done completely dirty by the plot, literally the only trans character who was immediately killed off for no apparent reason before she even had a chance to be an actual character. Bakugo is a shitty person who barely has any character development. He always treats everyone like garbage and they're always like, "Oh, Bakugo, you're so silly." I don't mind characters with anger issues, for example Melanie King, but when the rest of the characters don't react at all, it just gets really exhausting. And of course there's Mineta. Quite literally just a self-insert created to initiate fan service with no impact on the plot, and made to live out the creator's fantasy of groping 16-year-old girls. Disgusting. Anyway, I should probably talk about the drawing now. I, being the extra bitch I am, decided to give myself 2 separate outfits for this one of which being the classic UA school uniform, and the other being a sweet little hero costume. Or the villain costume, I guess, that could be a route I could go down. My hero/villain costume was partially inspired by the Green Goblin from Spider-Man. Couldn't tell you why. I also gave myself a big backpack to go with the school uniform, as considering I am, in fact, a goblin, I figured my quirk would probably be something to do with collecting trinkets, or something along those lines. I don't know, I didn't really think about it. Unfortunately, the pose ended up looking super stiff. It's not as noticeable with the hero/villain costume, but in the school uniform you can definitely see it. Overall, probably my least favourite of the drawings. And here we have the third finished drawing. So, funny story actually. A year or two ago, I was wanting to get more into anime, but I am definitely not the biggest fan service fanatic, and anime is practically infested with it. So I was trying to figure out what I could watch that didn't have that. Then I thought, oh hey, you know what probably won't have much fan service? Magical girl shows! They're for kids, right? I'll watch one of them. And then I ended up stumbling upon one of the most effective psychological thrillers I've ever watched, so... Madoka Magica is still, to this day, a masterpiece, and I will forever stand by that. Not only does it masterfully use a lingering feeling of dread to keep the viewer on edge, but the combination of its conflicting art style, incredible characters, unbelievably hype action scenes, immaculate world building and concept, and one of my favourite villains of all time creates a show that once watched will never be forgotten. I won't spoil anything in this video because if you haven't watched it and want to, I highly recommend it. I love the art style of this show for multiple reasons. The main art style is this sort of Tumblr-esque chibi style, essentially what we all thought our art style was when we were 9, which immediately lowers the viewer's guard. However, the second art style of the show is very different. This surreal, patchy, overstimulating mess of colours and patterns that looks straight out of a 4-year-old's collage. And when you combine it with the main art style of the show, is how we get shots like this. The characters are nothing to sneeze at either. I won't go too into detail on them because, again, spoilers, but if I were to pick any favourites they would be Sayaka, Homura, and Kyubey. This is probably the art style I was most excited about, mostly because there's no chance I wasn't going to draw my boy as a magical girl. Like, are you kidding? I was absolutely determined to be the prettiest princess at the party, and I think I delivered on that front. I used my classic colour palette, topped off with tons of frills, bows, and, of course, leg hair to seal the deal. I also had my weapon be 2 daggers because, what can I say, I'm a bit of a stabby guy. I had a whole lot of fun with this design specifically, it probably ended up being one of my favourites. And here we have the 4th finished design. Excuse the sudden me jump scare. With this drawing I started by using a picture of myself as a base, but by the end I kinda ditched it, so... Arcane is like one of the best shows I've ever seen. Not exactly a hot take, I'm aware. With the 2nd season coming out in I think November, I am quite literally frothing at the mouth with excitement, as opposed to my usual frothing at the mouth. And I mean, what can even be said about this show anymore? It's just fantastic in every way. The only flaw I can actually even think of is having Imagine Dragons in the intro. It has some of the most beautiful animation, the most compelling characters, the most magnificent fight scenes, and the most interesting messages I have ever seen from a show, and left me a changed man after it was over. And from the single clip that is out and the trailer alone, I know the 2nd season will be no different. My favourite characters would probably be Jinx, Echo, and Victor, but I love every single one equally. To avoid spoilers once again, I won't go into full detail on their arcs, but just know they're incredible. Echo didn't have much of an arc in the 1st season, but I can imagine he'll play more of a part in season 2, so I'm very excited about that. If you want to hear the characters talked about more, I recommend listening to one of the thousands of video essays made about them. Specifically, I highly recommend Schnee, or Schnee, however you pronounce it. They've made multiple videos on Arcane that I absolutely love. The way they talk about not just Arcane, but several other things in general is really well done. I love watching them in my spare time. Anyway, the drawing. I only ended up doing a headshot for this drawing because Jesus Christ, it was hard enough as it is. I was actually pretty worried about this drawing because I had no idea how I'd be able to make a 2D drawing look 3D, but I actually really liked it by the end. Drawing this was really stepping out of my comfort zone, so I'm really proud of the final product. I used young Victor as a reference photo, as he has pretty similar hair to my little goblin guy, and yeah, overall really happy with the finished product. It exceeded expectations. And there we have it. This video took so insanely long to make, my extra ass was not holding back, but now it's finally over. Can't wait for the next part. Let me know what styles you'll want me to try out next time, and I'll see what I can do for you. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!